Great. Thanks so much for joining us this evening or this afternoon if you're on the West Coast, and welcome to our group tour webinar for our wonderful exclusive Ireland tour that we're planning for this September. I'm Jennifer McPherson, and I'm with Turnkey Travel, but there's several of my colleagues that are also on this evening, and we're all under Travel Only, which is our parent agency. So welcome to everyone who is coming in. And I'm really excited because this has been a year in the making. I can't believe it's already been a year, Jonathan, since we first started this tour and planning for it. Of course, there was a little nasty thing called COVID that's gotten in the way. But now that people are vaccinated and the world is reopening, we're really seeing that rebound. And so excited to see everyone really kind of take that almost extra appreciation for traveling now and being back to those places that perhaps they haven't seen, to see family or discover these new places. So I'm really excited. If you haven't been to Ireland before or going back again, you're going to have a wonderful time. And I just can't wait for September to be here and get on this great tour with you and Royal Irish Tours. So this tour to Ireland is actually part of my Explore Europe fall series, where we take a different country. And for those of you who were with me in 2019, we toured Scotland, and there was just such a great group that time, and everyone was really excited with Ireland as another possible spot. And so we held off, and then COVID kind of got in that mix there. So this was a natural choice. And it fits quite nicely as well this year. So last week there was a little holiday called St. Paddy's Day that the Irish are known for, but it happens to also be my birthday. So there's never a dull moment on St. Patrick's Day. So, and it was a big milestone birthday. So I'm extra excited for this trip because it all kind of ties in nicely to that birthday theme and St. Patrick's Day too. So really looking forward to it. We already have 40 people confirmed for this tour, so you're going to be hearing a little bit more with Jonathan's presentation, what we're planning on with Ireland rebounding even faster than some of the other countries. We're looking at adding on a whole second tour just so we can accommodate everyone. But we've got a lot of great, happy people that are coming who are returning from before in some of my other trips, and also lots of new faces. So we're going to have another terrific group together, and just can't wait for that. And as I said, I've got my colleagues like Nicola and Janet who are joining me from Travel Only, and their friends and colleagues who are coming. So it really is going to be a great group. What we're going to do is, first of all, because we've got some people who have joined after we had our presentation last year, is start with the presentation, and then we're going to answer some of your questions. Down below on your Zoom bar, you're going to see either the chat, so I'll monitor that, or there's also a Q&A box, and you can click on that icon. And if you have specific things that you want us to address, please do put your questions in there. I'll monitor those, and then at the end, we'll go through some of the logistics around flights, insurance, any of the other little details that you might have that Jonathan perhaps hasn't covered, but I know his presentation is quite in depth, so we will go over a lot of that. And then we'll talk about the next steps if you haven't already signed up or if you have anything further. So that is going to be our general agenda for this evening. We're going to have some trivia in there as well, so stay tuned and listen closely to Jonathan's presentation so you can answer those poll questions, and we've got a few prizes up for grabs. And as Jonathan just pointed out, this is being recorded for those people who perhaps couldn't make it tonight or want to send it over to a friend that might be interested. I'll put this back online, and we're going to be able to then forward that around to people. Okay, so unless there's anything further with the chat, I will hand you over, and hopefully, yes, everybody's kind of got a wee dram of something to enjoy the presentation. But without further ado, I want to hand it over to Jonathan Sargent of Royal Irish Tours, who are our hosts and our partners with this great tour. Thanks very much, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the nice introduction, and thank you everybody for joining today. I must tell you, Jennifer, it's fantastic. You told me you had X amount signed up and pretty much everyone signed in, so very loyal following, which is great to see. So today I'm just going to go through kind of a bit of an overview on Ireland. I'll talk about obviously the September trip that a lot of you are on, but I know a few people might be interested in the October trip that Jennifer's putting on, which is going to be the same itinerary, for those who perhaps can't make the September one, or maybe you want to do 2 trips in the space of a month, who knows. But I'm just going to go through a bit of that, and very informal, so feel free to type in the chat and we can address any of those questions at the end, or Jennifer can interrupt me if it's very relevant to what I'm talking about. But before I get started, I just want to talk about the COVID restrictions and the travel restrictions for Ireland. So as of March 6th, there are no restrictions on travel to Ireland. So not even a passenger locator form, which was a thing before. You had to fill in details of your trip and stuff, which was kind of an annoying form. They got rid of that. So nothing is required to get into Ireland. No testing, no anything. But of course, for the safety of our own guests and people who have booked onto tours, and we are requiring people to be fully vaccinated or at least double vaccinated to get on any coach tour. And while it is very optional to wear masks, we are kind of encouraging masks to be worn when on the coach, and just to keep all the other guests safe as well. Although I did a trip 2 weeks ago with a group of travel advisors from Canada, and it became a bit difficult because people all around Ireland masks were removed on even before March 6th. But most of us were still wearing our masks. We made sure we wore it on the coach. And then if you feel comfortable not wearing a mask, that's of course fine. I can't believe that's what we're talking about with travel now, but still, it was so nice to be back in Ireland. And it's great that all restrictions have been removed. And then of course that antigen test that was required to get back into Canada is being removed as of April 1st. So that's another encouraging sign for travel. And we know by September, October, we're hoping things will be in an even better position. So just a bit about who Royal Irish Tours are before I get into the presentation, and who Jennifer is partnered with. We are a family owned and operated company. Irish roots very much run deep. Our owner, Ian Duffy, seen in the picture here, born and raised in Dublin, fell in love with a Canadian, moved here 30 years ago, set up roots in Richmond Hill. And he saw no one was really specializing in Ireland for the Canadian market. So he set up Royal Irish Tours, and we are the largest tour operator now selling Ireland. And we also sell England, Scotland, and Wales. So that is all we sell. So very much specialists in those destinations. Seen there beside Ian is Connor, who's our VP. And so very much a family business. I myself am from Ireland. Many of our staff are from Ireland or the UK as well. So it really does make a difference. In case you didn't know, people are already traveling again. I was in Ireland 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic to see the place so busy, so many people from overseas back traveling. And I've seen a lot of my friends and travel advisors on Facebook and Instagram posting pictures from the Caribbean, from Paris, from all sorts of places. So it's really, really fantastic to see. And we're really excited to begin our tours again for the first time in 2 years in May. So some of the reasons of why Ireland, I suppose, is such a popular destination, especially for Canadians. Of course, it's the people. It's that warm welcome you get, the Céad Míle Fáilte, or the 100,000 welcomes, as we say in Ireland. No matter where you go, you're going to meet some friendly locals. They're going to ask you what your last name is, what you had for breakfast. But they're not being nosy. They're just genuinely friendly. And when they hear you've come all the way from Canada, they'll be very excited to tell you a story, maybe even buy you a pint in the pub. But the people are really perhaps not the reason you go to Ireland, but often the reason you want to come back. It's that warm Irish welcome you get. Of course, very easy to get to Ireland. And I know with this tour, Jennifer has flights with Air Transat, which is only a 7-hour flight from Toronto. So very short hop, skip, and a jump across the pond, a little further going back, about 7.5 to 8 hours. And if you're coming from other gateways as well, it's about a 9-hour flight from the West Coast, or you can connect in Toronto as well. So very easy to get to, a lot closer than people think. Ireland is just a little island in the North Atlantic. So very easy to get to, which is great. And of course, lots of people have Irish roots, over 5 million in Canada with Irish ancestry. So lots of people, if you have an Irish last name, you might see, a pub with the same last name, a street. There's lots of those connections between Ireland and Canada, especially in the likes of Ontario and Quebec. A lot of the Irish would have come in on ships back during the times of the famine down the St. Lawrence River, and landed in places like Quebec City and Montreal, and then ended up in places like Toronto, and of course spread further afield. Lots of Irish out in the East Coast that everyone knows as well. Another reason, not perhaps why people go, but often the reason they want to come back is the food. And we really have had a food revolution in the last 15, 20 years. We really pride ourselves on that provenance. So everything you're eating is locally sourced, whether it's delicious seafood that have been caught that day at a local market. All the hotels where you'd be having dinner always have fresh local produce, famous butter and cheeses and dairy products, which are famous, well, especially around Europe. It's hard to get them into Canada. So perhaps if you haven't been to Ireland, you wouldn't be as familiar with them. But obviously our animals are out grass-fed, out grazing 12 months of the year. And most of our produce would be organic as well. So it results in really tender meat products, but also great dairy products as well. And, you know, a lot of things come up about dietary requirements and stuff. Ireland has one of the highest rates of celiacs in the world. So if you're gluten-free, for example, Ireland is very good at catering to that. They'll have some really good gluten-free breads, things like that. Vegetarians, we have a lot of them as well. So we're very, very able to cater for all sorts of dietary requirements. And they're, you know, we would just like to get that information in advance. So the hotels, especially will know in advance if, you know, for breakfast every morning and things, that there are people with certain allergies or dietary requirements. And these are just some pictures I took of my food when I was there 2 weeks ago, because people do take pictures of their food these days. And this is a lovely Irish coffee we got at a welcome reception, which was absolutely delicious. And then on the right is some local cod with a lemon risotto underneath, which I had at one of the hotels on the trip, which was absolutely delicious. And so you will get some really, really good quality food throughout the trip. Of course, music is a big part of our culture, and it's something you cannot escape in Ireland. So no matter where you go, even on the coach, you might get the driver playing a nice diddly-eye Irish tune at some stage. But every town you go to, you'll see live buskers on the streets, especially in the likes of Galway and Dublin. And then there's a pub for everyone in Ireland, we say. If you want live Irish music every night, you can find it. If you want a quiet pub or a cup of tea, you can find a pub for that as well. But music is such a big part of our culture. And, you know, it's perhaps the thing I miss most, or the biggest connection I have to Ireland when I go home and getting that live Irish music. And it's perhaps what I miss the most. I did manage to find some on St. Patrick's Day here in Toronto, which was great, but it's not quite the same as enjoying a lovely Irish pub in a little small town. On this tour, you'll be 3 nights in Killarney as well, which definitely is a pub for everyone. A lovely little town, but so many great pubs and restaurants, and a really nice place to spend a few nights. But what travel is all about, it's those memorable experiences, and perhaps we've been 2 years without creating them, so we can't wait to welcome you and get people back traveling throughout Ireland and the UK. And this was me and my colleague John at the Cliffs of Moher a couple of weeks ago. And on the left there, that's up Dunluce Castle, just beside the Giant's Causeway. So you'll have a chance to get to look at that castle on your trip too. And what really sets us apart, before I go into the day-by-day itinerary, we always say is our staff. Top quality experienced driver and guides. Of course, we're only selling to Canadians, so all our guides, you know, he's got a little Canadian badge, you can see our driver guide Joe there. So they always have great stories related to Irish Canadian history. Most of them have been with us 10 plus years, so whoever your driver and your guide are, and they'll always be fantastic, and everything's kind of tailored to Canadians as well. And you'll often see the Canadian flag raised in many of the hotels we go to and things, and they really do roll out the red carpet for us in Ireland. Again, there was always lots of inclusions on the tour as well. So if you're looking at the price point, lots of evening meals, pretty much everything in terms of attractions, breakfast, all your touring is included. So we don't really do optional excursions. And I know some companies you'll end up spending quite a lot on tour on optionals, but Jennifer's kind of packaged most of these things in for this trip. Just to give you an idea of how small the island is, and I know this is an 11-day, 10-night trip, so that sounds quite daunting to see a whole country in that, but when you realize the size of Ireland, it's a little easier to digest. It's about 3 hours from Dublin to Galway, and it's about 9 hours from north to south. So in a 10-day, 11-day trip, you really can see quite a lot of the country, and Jennifer's doing a lovely anti-clockwise loop, starting in Dublin, going all the way around and ending in Dublin. So really, really nice. And, you know, that's kind of what a lot of people will do when they're doing groups. They'll either go anti-clockwise, do a full loop, or they might do a southern or a northern loop. But it's really great that you'll get a taste of all the 4 corners of the country. So just to give you an idea of what's included on this tour. So round trip airfare And from Toronto to Dublin, transportation throughout, so with the driver and the guide. And porterage is also included, so your bags will be looked after. So the only time you'll be looking after your bags is getting them, from the plane, getting them to the coach, and then after that, you'll see them in your rooms every day. And then when you're moving hotels, you'll just leave your bag outside the door about 30 minutes before departure, and you'll see it in your next hotel room, which is great. So the driver and guide and the people at the hotel look after that. And then 10 nights accommodation in lovely 4-star hotels with a lovely breakfast daily, 5 meals in hotels. And then, of course, at the end, a hop on, hop off ticket in Dublin, and lots of other great experiences, which I'll talk a bit about. But just wanted to give you an idea of all the great inclusions that Jennifer has made sure are involved. So now I'm just going to go through kind of a day by day, just to give you a taste. And, anyone who's still thinking about going might certainly want to go after listening to this. So day one is always a leisurely day. We never try to do too much. So welcome to Ireland. You'll be met by your driver and your guide in Dublin Airport. You'll hop on the coach and head north up to Tracy Jeffrey's farmhouse, where you'll have a lovely stop and see a bit of bread making and get to taste some tea and scones or whatever she's serving that day. But she's a really lovely lady. She owns an 18th century farmhouse. I've been at her house 3 or 4 times. And she always puts on a good spread. Here's me actually. Ask her about her sloe gin when you're there, and because she had sloe gin she'd kept in her coat closet for over a year, because that's where you're supposed to keep it to make sure it ferments properly and is good. So we all got to taste her lovely homemade sloe gin, and she got the sloes from one of the bushes out in her garden. And she has her own cows, and it's just an amazing experience and really homely start to the tour. So Tracy Jeffrey's definitely a highlight of the trip, and really great that you're able to do that on day one. Then after visiting Tracy's, which is a lovely stop en route to Belfast. Belfast is about 2 hours north of Dublin. So a leisurely drive, about 2 hours up to Tracy's, and you get to see some beautiful scenery in the Mourne Mountains and the Strandford Lough area before coming into Belfast. And depending on time, you might do the panoramic tour of Belfast before arriving at the hotel, or maybe in the morning, depending on the routing. But these are pictures I actually took of the murals in Belfast. And there's still a peace wall separating Protestant and Catholic communities that dates back to the 1960s, where Belfast was in the news for all the wrong reasons. People talking about the Troubles. Anyone who watched the news back then, I'm sure, is very familiar with the Troubles. But it's really amazing to see how far it's come since then. And this peace wall, as it's called, very much is kind of a symbol of peace now. People sign their names and things on it now, and it's lovely just to get that panoramic tour and to get a feel for the city of Belfast. It all stems back to this mural, King William of Orange, 1690, defeating his uncle James at the Battle of the Boyne. And a lot of it stemmed from there, and it flared up, of course, with the Troubles in the 60s and 70s. This is Bobby Sands. Many you might be familiar with him. He actually died of hunger strike in the UK prison when Margaret Thatcher was in charge. So this is actually on the side of the Sinn Féin political building in Belfast. So very moving just to see all these murals as you go and get a panoramic tour. And there's so much to see and do in Belfast. It's a great place to start your tour. And then you'll have a dinner and overnight at your Belfast hotel, which is very centrally located. People normally just like to have the welcome drink, early dinner, and then acclimatise for day 2 and get ready to really start the tour in then. So day 2 is a lovely tour of the Titanic Belfast, which was built on the 100th anniversary of the fateful maiden voyage of the Titanic in 2012. So it's been open now 10 years, and it's now like one of the most visited attractions in Europe. It's a really amazing experience. I was just there myself 2 weeks ago. We normally give people 2 hours to explore this, and some people want to spend longer, some people that's plenty of time, but it really is a beautiful experience. There's a lot of free time in Belfast, so people who do want to spend all day there probably can. It's a really amazing experience. You get your ticket, and then your tickets for as long as you want in there. But it really is 9 galleries. It tells the whole story of the Titanic, from the shipbuilding history of Belfast, right through to what it was like on board as a first-class passenger, as a third-class passenger. Tells you a bit of the history of shipbuilding and how a lot of cruise ships and things took inspiration from what they were doing in Belfast back in the early 1900s. So really, really cool experience. And then you have a free afternoon to explore Belfast. Here's a group picture we took outside Titanic. We were all wearing some of us are wearing our sunglasses. It was a lovely 15 degrees day in March. But lots of time to explore. And actually the outside of the building is an exact replica of kind of the size of what the front of the ship would have been in the Titanic. So really, really cool experience. You have free time to wander around. Your hotel is very centrally located, so I recommend going to Belfast City Hall. Maybe go to the Cathedral Quarter in the evening. Lots of really great restaurants, bars, and a really fun area. The Duke of York's a personal favourite of mine in terms of pubs. If you want some live music, the Crown Liquor Saloon, a very old Victorian style pub, is also a popular one, which is right opposite the Europa Hotel, which is very centrally located. Another nice place to visit. Then day 3, head north up to the Giant's Causeway, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, seen in the picture there. So it really is amazing. It's 40,000 basalt columns, hexagonal columns that formed millions of years ago from volcanic eruptions. Or if you believe giant Finn McCool or the mythology of Ireland, these are actually the footsteps of giant Finn McCool when he was fighting the Scottish giant Ben Donner. So a really nice experience to go here, learn a bit of that mythology. It's about a 600-meter walk down to the stones, and then you have about an hour and a half, 2 hours to really explore a really amazing visitor attraction. So it's about probably one of the most scenic days. The drive actually up from Belfast to the Giant's Causeway can take nearly 3 hours just because it's so scenic. And we'll stop in Glengariff National Park where you get a chance to stretch the legs and have an Irish coffee. And then you'll go up the Causeway Coaster route, where often people are pleading with the driver to pull over so they can get pictures. But honestly, just sitting on the coach, you'll get incredible views. If you get a clear day, you'll see Scotland, which is only 20 miles away. And it's really beautiful. And then you'll get a full 2 hours up at the Causeway to really explore it. But this is probably my favorite day of the tour, and definitely a trip highlight of mine is the walking tour in Derry with Ronan Mcnamara. This picture I actually took last week. I did it, and it was Ronan's first tour he had done since 2019. So it was really cool, and he was very excited to be back out there. Afterwards, he was like, was I a bit rusty because I haven't done it in 2 years? But no, he was fantastic. And he grew up there during the times of the Troubles. He now has 3 kids who are also growing up there. And it's just, he's like we always say he should run for government, the way he talks, and he just like very moving. He brings people to tears sometimes, how passionately he talks about his city. But he gives you a lovely walking tour of the walled city of Derry, learn a bit of that more recent history, but also of the ancient history going back to the siege of Derry in 1689 and things like that. But a nice addition to the trip. Then it's over to Donegal town, where you'll get a lovely nice welcome at the Keys Hotel, which is a lovely family-run hotel, and a dinner in the bar there before another day of touring the next day, which will finish in the lovely town of Westport, seen in the background here. But en route to Westport, you'll stop in Donegal town, perhaps if there's time in the morning, which is a lovely place for a bit of shopping, and then down to Belleek Pottery, which we had a chance to explore last week as well. And it's not just a factory where you go in and see the finished pieces. You actually see there's about 100 people still working, and we were warned on the tour, don't be talking to the work people because they're very busy and concentrating. But everyone we walk by talk to us, so everyone wants to have a conversation with you, asking you where you're from. A few people got their chance to try at shaping the pottery, which was cool. But there really are craftsmen. The bottom right there, I took a picture. You can actually see your Belleek pottery, how it's dated. They basically have a little logo on the bottom, which gives you an idea of the year of it. But it really cool to see those craftsmen and women at work, and a really nice stop along the way. Then you travel down through Yeats country, which where W.B. Yeats got a lot of his inspiration for his poetry and lived for the latter part of his life, before coming into Westport town, where you stay at the beautiful Westport Coast Hotel, which is one of my favorite hotels in Ireland. I do recommend, if you're not too tired that evening, going into town. Matt Malloy's is a very famous pub. It almost looks like a postcard when you see it there, but I actually took this picture after we left 2 weeks ago. But they have live Irish traditional music every night. So traditional music generally in Ireland, like they don't have a microphone or anything. They just have Irish instruments. Most of it is not even written down. They learn generation by generation, these traditional Irish songs, and they really are amazing. And it's actually owned by a member of the Chieftains, Matt Malloy, who's the flute player in the Chieftain. So he actually owns it. And he was there the evening we were there. So he got a round of applause from the musicians who were playing in his pub, which was funny. But a really, really nice pub. But there's so many really nice places on the main street to explore. Then the next day, heading south down to Galway and to the beautiful, idyllic Cliffs of Moher, seen in the background there. So a walking tour of Galway en route, which is a lovely, lovely city. And I have a blank slide here because I meant to put a picture in and I totally forgot. But Galway City is a really, really nice city. We had a lovely walking tour there last week. A lot of Spanish influence there. The Spanish Armada came in the 16th century. So the Spanish Arches is a very famous place downtown, but you'll see a lot of the names of the pubs and towns and restaurants with Spanish names. There's a lot of Spanish roots there, but a really, really nice city to wander around. Eyre Square, a very famous area. You'll see live music and entertainment there. But again, if you're looking for good nightlife, there's lots of really great bars, but a great shopping town as well. So lots of really, really nice shops. There's a street called Shop Street, which has lots of great shops, but also lots of restaurants and bars as well. And if anyone wants the famous Claddagh ring, which is a famous Irish ring, these actually come from Galway, and there's 3 or 4 lovely jewelers in Galway City off Shop Street that I recommend going to. And if you're looking for an Aran sweater or anything like that, Galway is definitely the place to get it. Then it's down to the Cliffs of Moher, and I actually took this picture 2 weeks ago. I had to share my pictures of it because I've been to the cliffs many times, and this is the least cloudy I've seen it. Normally you still get a beautiful view, and sometimes it's really nice when it's misty, but it was amazing to be able to pretty much see all the cliffs. So when you get there, we generally give an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the time, maybe a bit longer. It's really beautiful. Stretch the legs. It's only about a 200-meter walk from where you get off the coach to get this view here, but you can walk around to the left and go down the cliffs there. You can walk up to O'Brien's Tower on the right, which is where you get the best view of the cliffs. But a really, really nice place to stretch the legs. And it's you can't do this justice in pictures. When you're there, you get a feeling looking over the Atlantic, and it really is just amazing. Then it's on to Killarney, and I was looking for pictures of Killarney. I've been to Killarney many times, but I don't have any pictures of the streets, so I could only find a picture from Tourism Ireland of it with the Christmas lights up. But it's a beautiful little town. Lots of great streets like this for shopping. Lots of interesting cafes, sweet shops, all sorts of artists and producers. So great for shopping, but amazing. It's definitely a highlight of any trip to Ireland and Killarney, and it's amazing that your tour will be staying 3 nights there in the center of Killarney. So you'll get there and you'll just have a nice relaxing evening, time to explore, before the touring begins in Killarney the next day, and which will have time each evening to explore, and the shops will be open till 8 or 9 if you want to do a bit of shopping. I actually took this picture as well. This is the old head of Kinsale, so the south of Cork, so you'll get a chance to see views like this on your Ring of Kerry tour and the Wild Atlantic Way. And it's amazing to see the changing landscape as you go through there. You'll go through Mall's Gap and the Gap of Dunloe, and you'll be taking a jaunting ride the next day on horse and cart through the Gap of Dunloe, where Mall's Gap seen here in the picture. So the Ring of Kerry, I think it's what people think of Ireland when they're thinking about what it's going to be like. And the reason Ring of Kerry is so popular because it actually looks like this, and it is like going back in time, and it really is an amazing experience. Then you'll have a nice free evening in Killarney that night before the next day doing the other amazing touring route, which is the Dingle Peninsula, and gets a lot less visitors, but perhaps even more beautiful than the Ring of Kerry drive down to the Dingle Peninsula, and stop in the town of Dingle, where you'll have free time around lunch to explore for an hour or two. A really, really beautiful town, right out on one of the most westerly points in Europe. If you don't count Iceland, it's the most westerly point in Europe. So a really, really nice little town to visit. And then you'll be back into Killarney to do a jaunting ride. And many people were probably wondering what a jaunting ride is. It's basically a horse and cart ride through the Gap of Dunloe and Killarney National Park, which will take you right through up to your farmhouse dinner. So it's an amazing experience. It is like going back in time. You're on these roads that aren't open for cars or any sort of motorized vehicles, and the only other people you'll see are a few hikers and maybe the horse driver's family, because there's about 5 or 6 families run these horse and cart rides. You actually go through some of their houses. They live in the Killarney National Park, but it really feels like you're going back a couple of centuries, other than the logos on the anoraks there. But it really is a beautiful, beautiful part of your trip. So after those 3 amazing days in Killarney, you'll head east to the beautiful city of Cork. You'll get a guided tour and taste of the old Middleton Distillery, which is one of the oldest working distilleries in the world. It's now owned by Jameson, but Middleton Distillery and the whiskey is very famous. There'll be some bottles of whiskey there that you can only buy there. Yeah, Jennifer has her Jameson there, but Middleton, I know I think it's their 12-year-old, is one of the most popular Irish whiskies in the world. So hopefully you get a nice treat and a bit of a taste of that before heading over to Blarney Castle, where you can get Gift of the Gab. It's only reopened for the first time in 2 years recently. So a lot of people want to go up and kiss the stone, and you'll see in the top right picture there, and you actually have to be held and bend over backwards to kiss it, because there is a gap of about a meter there. But those who don't want to get the Gift of the Gab, or already have it perhaps, and can explore the gardens, beautiful gardens, especially in September, October. You'll get lots of flowers out, lots of greenery. There's a nice cafe, and there's a little shop where you can get some of the Blarney Woolen Mills items as well. So a really nice place to spend an hour on the way north up to Hotel Manila in Tipperary. And you'll also be going to Cahir Castle, which is another lovely 12th century castle to explore that day too. And then the next day, heading through Waterford City, which is the oldest city in Ireland, founded by the Vikings in 800 AD. And then Dunbrody famine ship, and also Guinness. So Dunbrody famine ship is a replica of the famine ships that would have left Ireland in the 1940s, heading across for a better life in places like Newfoundland, Montreal, Toronto, New York, Australia, New Zealand. But it really is a very moving experience when you come on. These were actually built to bring goods and cotton and stuff back from South America. But then they were used to send people who were basically escaping famine in Ireland. And they were called coffin ships because about 50% of the people who traveled across would die on board of disease and things, and they would literally throw them and they would overboard and they'd be buried at sea. So it really is a very moving experience and a very important part of Ireland's history. 1 million people died and 1 million people emigrated. There's still less people living on the island of Ireland now today than there was in the 1840s. So it's very moving when you go there, and learning these things along the way is kind of what travel's all about as well, getting to learn about cultures and history and things like that. So this is one of my favorite experiences. It doesn't look like much, but you see what it was like as a first class passenger and a third class passenger on board. It was often 12 people in one bed. And then when you see the first class passengers, there might be 2 or 3 of them on board, and they wouldn't even know there were other passengers on board. And they'd be able to use the top deck, while those in third class might get the top deck for 20 minutes a day or something. And then you get to get some more cheerful experience at the Guinness Storehouse. Beautiful, beautiful tour of that. And you get to taste a pint of the black stuff with beautiful views over Dublin City at the top gravity bar. I was there at Christmas, and they've actually doubled the size of it recently. And you'll see in the top left there, it says Phoenix Park. So there's little text on each window which tells you what you're looking at, so it makes it much easier. So I used to always get asked, oh, what's that? What's that? And I'd be like, oh, I'm not actually sure. But now, it's easy to tell them what it is because it's written on the window. So really nice place to try your first Guinness if you haven't before. If you are a Guinness connoisseur, it's one of the best pints of Guinness you'll ever have in its birthplace, and it's just made downstairs as well. Then the next day, you'll have kind of a free day to explore Dublin. We always like to do this on our tours, and I know Jennifer was very keen to do this, a hop on, hop off. So you basically have to get your ticket and go as you please. I think there's 18 stops on the tour, and each of them are pretty much a major attraction. So I always recommend maybe do the whole loop, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour. And then on the second loop, get off at any stops you want to get off at. And then you get discount with your voucher into many of the attractions. So it stops at Guinness, it stops at Trinity College, Book of Kells, things like that. So lots to see and do and explore Dublin City. Trinity College, obviously a highlight. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to share what I would recommend. The Ethnic Emigration Museum is a really nice tour as well, but there's so much to see and do in Dublin. There's something for everyone. And then you do a farewell hoolie at the Abbey Tavern. So that's a lovely Irish night where you get dinner, entertainment, a bit of dancing and music, and a really great way to finish off the tour. Then it's bid farewell, unfortunately, day 11, time to go home. So I hope that gave you kind of a bit of insight into what the tour is included. At the top here, I have the October dates, but I know most of you are doing the September dates, which are September 9th to 20th. So the October dates would be October 7th to 18th, and the same pricing for anyone who perhaps wants to do the October date as well, or perhaps hasn't committed. And the September date I know is pretty much full. So that's just a quick overview, and it gives you an idea of the same inclusions and everything. There's a couple of different hotels on the October one, but pretty much the whole itinerary would be exactly the same otherwise. And then in terms of terms and conditions, a $500 non-refundable deposit due at time of booking. And then that full payment deadline is actually for the September tour. So it will be 2 months before October 7th, which would be August 8th approximately. And then of course, space is subject to availability. So get in touch with Jennifer or any of the lovely travel advisors that Jennifer is working with within her network, Nicola, I know, and others. And Jennifer can maybe give them a call out now. And then book by April 17th if you are looking to do the October tour, and you'll be entered to win an Irish prize pack, which is going to include some Irish whiskey, chocolates, and maybe a little gift voucher as well.
Yeah, this one might be open, but I'll be sure to include a fresh one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, but I always like to put in the frequently asked questions here because these may help answer some of them. So what's the weather like? Often a question we get, what do you pack? Our tours are very casual. So most of the hotel dinners, you know, whatever, like nothing too fancy, but of course, if you want to get dressed up, you can as well. We always recommend comfortable shoes for during the day and comfortable clothes to wear on the coach. And you know, you could get 4 seasons in one day, so we recommend layers as being the most important thing. It might be 25 degrees during the day, but it could drop to as low as 10 in the evenings. Umbrellas aren't much use if there's any wind in Ireland, so we always recommend a nice rain jacket is probably the best way to do it. But I was just there in March and we got 1 day of rain in an 8-day tour, which is great. And then in Ireland, the currency is the euro in the Republic of Ireland and the pound sterling in Northern Ireland. And then the average cost for lunches and dinners not included, you're looking at about 10 to 15 euro for your lunch, which is, you know, less than $20. And then how much is a pint or a wee dram? You're looking at about €4 in more rural areas, and you know, similar prices unfortunately to Toronto and places. And when you're in the likes of Belfast and Dublin, it can be a little more expensive. And of course, I showed you that map earlier. Ireland's a small country, so you're never longer than 3 or 4 hours on the coach in any one day. Frequent stops, there's a washroom on board as well, but we're never longer than an hour or an hour and a half without making a stop at a nice attraction or anything like that. So thank you very much, everyone. That kind of concludes my slides, and we'll open the floor to any questions or perhaps anything Jennifer wants to add in advance. But a big thank you to everyone for joining.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much, Jonathan. I think that really gave people a great overview because even I learned a few things, and I was instrumental in trying to pick all these spots. But I think one of the things to highlight is that Ireland is an island, and in the way that the Scotland trip, for those people who were with me on that one, where we were able to situate ourselves in only 2 locations from a hotel. We will have to do a bit more. I tried to do the best I could in keeping us in locations fairly centrally, but it's just the way that the roads are built. It goes around Ireland. Yes, there are some that crisscross, but if you are trying to see a lot of the sites, and what we did try to really pack in there are really a combination, wouldn't you say, Jonathan, of many of your different highlights types of tours. And we were able to get a lot of things on this one because, of course, it kept, saying, well, can we do this one and this? But, maybe the Jameson tour isn't included in one, or we don't get the live entertainment, or we don't go to Tracy's farmhouse, or we don't go to see Dingletown. All of those things are usually situated in different tours, but this is all in one tour. So you really are going to get the best of the best, which is fantastic. So really, really looking forward to that. And we can go to any questions, but I just want to make mention that, yes, what we're looking at right now is a full capacity for the September. We can wait list if those people want to put their name in for September in case somebody does want to switch out, then we can do that. But with October, we can open up to another 40 people, which is terrific. We do have this single rate as well, but those rooms are going to be, you know, kind of as subject to availability, just because, of course, one person taking into a room needs to be checked with the hotel. We do have some people who might be interested in a post stay, and I know that several have contacted me. If you are looking at doing any sort of pre or post stay, whether you want to hop over to Scotland and explore or do a little bit more around Ireland, it's best to do that as a post stay, only because when we land and we get through customs and we all arrive, that's when the bus is going to meet us at the arrivals section of the airport, and it can be very difficult to try to meet up with us there if you are already in Ireland. So if you are going to try to do that, then I would suggest doing it more up in Belfast so that you meet us at that hotel instead of trying to actually meet us at the airport, because that'll be quite tricky. But if you do the post stay, then once we come back to Dublin and finish off there, then I can make arrangements for you, or Nicola or Janet, whoever you're working with, can, and then you can either pick up a hopper flight from Dublin, or perhaps you're going to take a rental car of your own. Now, of course, they drive on the opposite side, but you know, people do a nice B&B and drive on their own, so that's something to do. The flights are included. However, I know that some people might be coming in from other airports. I have some guests myself that are coming in from the West Coast. So we can also package it out as a land only. So what that will mean is that we'll just kind of discount the airfare from there, and then your agent, myself, or if you're working with someone else, or if you have points, you can book. A lot of people are sitting on credits now from COVID, can book their own airfare, and maybe that's direct to Dublin, or perhaps you want to spend some time and visit people in Toronto beforehand and then fly with us. So lots of ways to slice that. I have been asked about seat selection or being upgraded for the premium seats, and that can be done. We can take note of that now, and then as soon as Royal Irish puts in, it's currently being reserved as a group fare. So once that gets ticketed, then we can start to put in, if you actually want to have a full seat upgrade, then we can do that at any time to make sure that those are secure for inventory, but actual seat selection within the economy, then we can do once we've got those seats ticketed. So let your agent know what you're preferring, if it is you know, a premium seat, or if it's just that you want an aisle versus a window, that type of thing. And we can take a list of all that once Transat has all of our tickets ready. Insurance, one thing I did want to bring up there. So many of you had opened the Manulife Premium Protection Plan with us last year, as that is the most comprehensive policy that's sold right now in travel, and it just really covers you for everything, even for that cancel for any reason. And that gives you up to 80% back if just something happens and you decide you need to cancel that just before the trip. Then you can get up to 80%, 7 days out, and then you can go to a limit within the last week. But with that, a lot of you opened up the policy, which is perfect. You needed to do that back. You made deposit. If you're just now looking at this trip, then that insurance needs to be purchased within the first 72 hours of making the deposit. And then what we can do is a top up once you make final payment. So I did the specs on that today. So if you're roughly kind of under 65 with the price tag, because it is based on your age, you're looking at probably another $400 to top up and cover the entire amount for the trip based on what you had already paid for opening up. And then that will cover you right up until you leave, as I said. And if you did have to cancel, then you could, because life's unexpected. So hopefully we won't have to do that, because this is going to be such a fantastic trip. I think that is basically one of the things that I'm going to also do with my colleagues is we're going to start a Facebook group. So if you are on Facebook, if you have that, you'll be invited to join that. And then we can start to tag some of those great sites that you saw. Tracy's Farmhouse, she's on Facebook. So then you can start to really watch these people and be connected. And we'll do a little bit of a countdown with different posts. We will do another one of these once we get to final payment, so we can really get into that finer detail of different things. If those were with me on the Scotland trip knew that I had also arranged some shuttles from the Hamilton area to Pearson. We can look at something similar, just depends on where everybody's coming from and what we can coordinate at that time. But that's something that we can definitely look at. Maybe one Hamilton, maybe one closer to Mississauga way, and then we can shuttle everybody in from there. So I think those are all that I have right now. Let me just go to the Q&A and chat. Insurance I did cover, so let me know on
Insurance
that.
and seat selection seem to be the main
Yeah,
question.
seat selection. Okay, perfect. And what I just like to mention with how insurance is currently changed or reverted back to the old terms and conditions with COVID. Now you only need to have the regular policy. So during COVID, it is a known event as what is known in insurance terms. So they do know that it's out there. And so we had to have a separate ride or a separate policy for you to travel over the last couple of years if you were to do that. But now that the advisories have all been downgraded in the last month or so, then even with cruising, then your regular insurance does cover you, and that includes even for your trip interruption or for your quarantine elements too. So right now, all you need is to have that premium protection plan and you are covered. So, I am seeing one coming in as far as playing golf there. Yeah, I know that I had asked Connor about that, and that's going to come into terms of where we're going to be at and for how long. So maybe Jonathan can probably speak to a couple of the areas where it works best. If there's somebody who doesn't want to do whatever we are doing that particular day, then those days where they take kind of a pass from the general itinerary and do their own thing usually work best when we are, of course, staying a couple of nights in one location. So, Killarney is going to be a good one because we are there 3 nights, so that if you took a pass on the bus trip, then at least you can come back and meet us at the hotel that evening. So Jonathan, do you want to speak to perhaps another spot that might work?
Yeah, no, I think I was going to suggest Killarney just because there's such an abundance of golf courses there as
Yeah,
well. And there's 2 days of touring the Ring of Kerry and then the next day Dingle, which are both really nice days. But if you prefer to golf, there's quite affordable golf, which wouldn't be too far from Killarney town, which could easily be arranged locally, or we could figure it out. But yeah, that wouldn't be an issue, but you would just be missing that part of the tour.
exactly. So if there is someone who wanted to opt for that, please do let your agent know so that we can kind of get a scale of how many people that might want to do something for golf, and then we could get at least a rate going and perhaps a shuttle out there, cab or so forth, and look at rentals and everything so that that could be arranged. But yes, you would be missing the piece that's pre-scheduled, and then you would meet us back at the hotel that evening. So when we are staying a couple of nights in one location, that works best. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I think that is definitely one. So if you do have any other specific needs over the trip, please do let me know, or any of us, because those are things that we do like to know ahead of time, just so we can let the hotels or the tour guides and such know. There will be some walking, as Jonathan outlined, but overall, these places are quite accessible because they are kind of mainstream places. And getting around the cities, you can do as much or as little walking as you want. Cabs are easily available, so you can walk one way and then take a taxi back to the hotel if you want to do that as well. So I think that if there's anything else I wanted to say about the post day, which is great. Yeah, and then let's see. Oh, the average age of participants. Well, we're all young at heart. So I would say that probably early 60s, or right around 60 is probably the average age right now. So we're kind of ranging from that 50 to 70-year-old. Some people a little bit older, 70, but over 70, but then for the most part, right around those, that sort of 60 to 65 is the average right now. So, and a big mix of some solo travelers to returning people from my Scotland trip to couples, and some people will know each other and some won't, but I can definitely guarantee you will all know each other after like the first day. It'll be a great group, so that'll be great. Now the coach bus, the single supplement cost. Yes, so it's 4,475 Beverly. And so with that, we are, as I said, we have to watch the limitation on the hotel availability. So right now we are full with our solo travelers for the September dates. So if you are interested, I can put you down, or whoever you're working with, for the October dates for the solo. Or if you are interested and amenable to sharing with a same-sex traveler, then I've got a few people who might be interested in doing that as well, but they came along initially as a solo. So there's or find a friend. There's always time for that too. We don't have to make the final decision until July for final payment. So I can always take your name, or Nicola or Janet. You can pay your deposit now, and then at the time of final payment, you can still be working to see if a friend might want to join you, and then at that time decide if you're truly going to be a solo traveler or not. So we do have time. Okay, good. Great. So if everybody has listened to Jonathan's tour, oh, we're good. If the departure flight from Toronto, yes, definitely. So it's an overnight flight. So I wasn't sure if, yes, when Jonathan was talking about that, and he said the duration, it is an evening flight. So we will need to try to get a little bit of sleep, but I know that's sometimes hard on the plane. And then when we arrive, it's of course the next morning. And then from there, you're going to just have a short bus ride, but with a little bit of time to stretch your legs at Tracy's farmhouse. And then when you get into Belfast, then you can freshen up, maybe even have a nap, and then there. Yes.
And yes, Jennifer, that is a late, someone asked, is it a late flight? It would be, I think it's around 11 p.m. So you would not need to take a vacation day. Someone just asked about that. So
yes,
plenty of time to get to the airport post work.
That's right. Yes. And so the final payment, just to confirm, was July 10th for the September trip, and it'll be around August 7th for the October trip. All right. Yeah. So July is the September trip final payment, and October's is the August 7th date. Okay. So just if you are looking at, and then of course the $500 per person deposit holds your spot for now. And that again, is going to secure your seat on the coach bus and your hotel room. So if you do have anything there, oh, I've got a few questions in there. Average age, okay. Yeah, okay. And then again, with the participation in all the tours, as far as the flexibility of the day, we do try to build in a lot of free time too. So once you get to a location, if we're going to be doing a walking tour or something like that, and you just want to maybe relax at the hotel or something, that's fine. The only thing that we of course cannot be flexible on is when the bus is leaving. So that is where we are moving around in a circular motion throughout Ireland. So if we've got a full day somewhere and there's some flexibility, by all means, that's fine. You can meet us back at the hotel later on if we've got a dinner planned, or if it's a free evening and you just want to go out and do your own thing. Definitely, there's going to be lots of different restaurants and pubs that you can enjoy, and that is definitely flexible time, and you can go and do your own thing there. So it's only really when we have to be at the bus, and we try to keep it not too early. It's not a crazy early. I mean, what would you say, Jonathan? You want to be up and have your breakfast because it's a nice full breakfast. It's not just kind of take a muffin and yogurt. And then it's usually around 8:30, right? And with
well, normally it wouldn't be quite that early. Like the day of the Causeway, we try to get out early just because it's a really lovely day, and like you want to spend lots of time at the places. But there'll be some later starts. The days like the Ring of Kerry, for example, those days where you're not traveling as far in one day, be later starts. And yeah, again, you have plenty of free time in the evenings. We normally try, other than that Causeway day and maybe the day Westport down to Killarney, most days you'll be at the hotel by 4, 5 latest. Lots of free time.
That's great. Yes. Yes, it's just that if we did what we tried to do for Art Scotland, where we did a bit more of a spoken wheel and stayed in one location,
Oh,
and
yes,
just
yes.
doing a lot of backtracking the way that Ireland is set up. So we're in a circular motion moving, and we've kept it to as many places as we can, so that we keep you going, but we also give you that flexibility. We don't want to overdo it. We realize that. Yeah.
Well,
Good,
it might be
good,
time.
good.
Might be time to launch these polls before I forget to see if anyone
Yes.
wants to win a
No,
prize.
that's for sure. So if you've all paid attention, we're going to do a few trivia questions, and we've got some gift cards here. So we'll draw from some of the
The
people who
correct answer.
respond. Yes.
So the
for
first
sure.
one I'm going to launch, I actually didn't talk about, so it's quite a hard one. So
Okay.
anyone who knows anything about Ireland, but they get easier. So I'll launch this poll question. So what is Ireland's national symbol or national emblem? Is it the shamrock, the harp, or the fiddle? So we'll give people a bit of time. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see the names right now. So Jennifer, I might just pull the winners after and send you an email so you
Yes,
know, and then
for
you can
sure.
pass it on next day.
Yes, so to do your polls, people, you can just click on the actual drop down there on the multiple choice, and you can click, and then that gets registered there. I
We'll
see a
give
few
this
people
one
doing the chat.
another 10 seconds. Oh, it's
Yes.
50-50, whether it's the shamrock or the harp.
Yes,
I
yes.
told you it was a hard one.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the answer is actually the harp.
Yes.
So the harp is the national emblem of Ireland, also the emblem of Guinness, and Guinness trademarked it before the Irish government trademarked it. So you'll see the Irish government, the emblem on the back of the coins is one way, and the Guinness one is flipped the other way because Guinness actually trademarked it the other way. The shamrock is the symbol of St. Patrick and associated mostly with St. Patrick. So I told you that was going to be a tough one. 50-50, literally people on the harp and the shamrock. The fiddle is a very popular instrument in Ireland, but it is indeed the harp. Okay, I'll stop sharing that one and then launch the next question, which is, which of these is a UNESCO World Heritage Site? And I did mention it in my presentation. So is it the Cliffs of Moher, the Titanic Belfast, or the Giant's Causeway? Only one of them is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, run by the National Trust. Might give a clue as well.
Which is nice that we are seeing all three of these, though.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
We'll give it another 10 seconds there or so. So the Cliffs of Moher, Titanic Belfast, or the Giant's Causeway. All lovely, wonderful attractions, and it's great that you're able to include them all. We'll end the poll there. And it is indeed the Giant's Causeway.
Yay! Yes.
I thought the National Trust might have been a clue, because the National Trust is, of course, a UK sustainability organization. So it manages lots of properties in the UK, including Northern Ireland. So the Cliffs of Moher is not a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Many people think it is, because it is very beautiful. And Titanic, of course, is a lovely attraction. But the Giant's Causeway is indeed that. Now, the final one, a bit of fun. Which of these actors is not Irish? And again, this might throw you off, because this actor has played an Irish person at least once in a movie, if not more. Lots of people think he is Irish based on one particular role, which I'll mention after that. But is it Colin Farrell, Jared Butler, or Cillian Murphy? You know this one, Jennifer?
Well, I do. I do from my crossing people off, process of elimination.
Oh, yes. We'll give it another 5 seconds or so there.
But I love Cillian Murphy.
I think his name gives it away. People know he's definitely Irish.
Yes, yes.
So the answer is actually Jared Butler. So Jared Butler, very famous for his role in P.S. I Love You, with Hilary Swank, where he plays her deceased Irish husband. But in fact, Jared Butler is actually from Scotland.
That's
so
right.
anyone who was on the Scotland tour might have known that. Colin Farrell is from Dublin, and Cillian Murphy is also from Ireland as well.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy, as people often pronounce it, but it's actually Cillian Murphy, who's famous for Peaky Blinders most recently.
Yes.
So I'll pick those winners. Congratulations, everyone who answered there. I'll pick those winners and let Jennifer know. But a big thank you to everyone for joining, and we hope to see many of you in Ireland in this year and beyond. So thank you, Jennifer, for everything too.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight and spending this hour with us. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you're excited about Ireland for this fall. I know that I can't wait. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please do pass them along to myself, to Nicola, to Janet, or anyone that you might be working with if you have any more inquiries, because we just want to make sure that everybody has a wonderful time. And I really look forward to seeing everyone, hopefully in person very, very soon, as the world does open up again. And we will do another one of these, but you will see an invite for a Facebook group in the next little bit. And we're going to also post this recorded presentation in a couple of spots so that you can pass it along to anyone else that you might know, or to rewatch it, because just cause, right? It's so interesting to come back and look at what we're going to be doing. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you have a great evening. Stay well. And Jonathan, thanks so much for your great presentation. Really, really excited to see this part of your world too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, everyone, for
All right.
joining. Have a great evening.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.